What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my 2024 Big 12 football predictions for the upcoming 2024 college football season. So in this video, I'm going to show you what the standings could look like based on my team predictions here for all the teams in the Big 12. I've already done the SEC a couple days ago, and then yesterday I just did the Big 10. If you have not seen those videos and those conference videos, be sure to go back and check them out. So again, now we're doing the Big 12, and then tomorrow we'll close things out with the ACC. For all of our Power 4 conferences, again, we're doing every single Power 4 conference, showing you what the standings look like based on my predictions for every single team, and also every single conference. And then at the end of each conference video, we're going to give you my conference championship prediction video, or prediction as well. So now we're going to do the Big 12 here in this video. So let's go ahead and get right into my 2024 Big 12 football predictions for the upcoming 2024 season. We will start here from the bottom and work our way to the top. So we start here from 13 to 16. First up, I got Houston and BYU both at number 15 and number 16. I got them both going 3-9 and then 1-8 here in the Big 12. And before I start to break down any of these teams, I don't really expect anybody to go winless this year in the Big 12, because if you look at this conference, it is really stacked with some really good teams, and I think this conference is definitely going to be really wide open. And again, I don't really think anybody is going to go winless in this conference unless, maybe somebody has a disappointing year, like, for example, BYU and Baylor, and then Arizona State and Cincinnati. Some of these teams could go winless, but again, in my opinion, I just don't really see anybody going winless in this conference. Again, just how competitive this conference is going to be, and also just how these teams are going to beat up on each other. But you look at Houston, I think Houston has a better chance to do better than that 3-9 record. You look at the roster, they do have some playmakers coming over from the transfer portal and everything. They also have Willie Fritz coming over, the new head coach and everything from Tulane. Had a really good last couple years down there at that American school and everything. It led, them to like 10-win seasons. So I think the future is definitely bright here for Houston, but again, their schedule is pretty much the reason why I have them just going 3-9. But I got them getting a Big 12 win at least, so I got Houston here predicted to go 3-9 and then 1-8 here in the conference. So I got them here at number 16, and then BYU comes in here at number 15, also predicted to go 3-9. Again, I don't think BYU and Houston are going to be really bad. It's just more about their schedules and everything. BYU has a very tough schedule this year, and I think a lot of people are saying that BYU is going to definitely go winless in the conference. I don't really see that happening, though. I got them getting that one win against, Houston and everything, so that's the reason why you're seeing BYU just ahead of Houston here in these standings. But again, I got BYU going 3-9 and then 1-8 here in the conference, so I got BYU and Houston both predicted to go 3-9. And then I got Arizona State and Cincinnati both predicted to go 4-8. I got Cincinnati, though, predicted to go 2-7 here in the conference, but Arizona State 1-8. You look at this Arizona State team, just like Houston, I think they'll be better than this 4-8 record. I think Arizona State's going to be a lot more competitive than they were from last year, especially after playing in a tough conference in the Pac-12. They come over to the Big 12, and I think they'll be a lot more competitive. I think this team has a chance to make it to a bowl game, but it's a second-year head coach. Again, I think they'll improve some this year, but I don't have this team going to a bowl game, so you're probably, wondering why are they at 4-8 instead of 3-9 if they got like a Big 12 win. Well, I got them getting a non-conference win against, Mississippi State, so that's the reason why their, fourth win probably could come in the non-conference. I think this team probably starts out 3-0. If you look back at my Arizona State prediction, I have this team starting off 3-0 with 3 non-conference wins, but then the Big 12 schedule gets really tough for them. But I got them beating BYU in the Big 12 and everything, and that's where their one win comes from in the conference. So I got Arizona State predicted to go 4-8, but not even coming close to making it to a bowl game. I think this team will be very competitive, though, and like I said, I think they can do better than that 4-8 record. And then Cincinnati at 4-8, kind of hard to tell how good this team is going to be. I have them getting a couple wins in the conference, but they do have a tough non-conference game against Pittsburgh. I have them losing that game, I believe, so I think that's going to be a very tough game there for Cincinnati, even though they beat them last year. But they do have a pretty good schedule that that sets up pretty well for them. But you look at the roster, it's really just not there for this Cincinnati Cincinnati team. Definitely not the same Cincinnati team that we saw when Luke Fickell was down there. I just don't think Scott Satterfield is the right head coach here for the Bearcats. Again, he does have a lot of experience, but I just don't think he's the right head coach for this Cincinnati football team. But you look at the offense, that's, the one area where I think Cincinnati might be really good at, but, the defense does have some question marks, but we'll see how it all plays out. So I got Cincinnati here at number 13. Let's move on now from 7 through 12. I got Baylor here at number 12, predicted to go 5-7, and then 3-6 here in the conference. Kind of hard to tell, kind of hard to figure out how good this Baylor team is going to be, just like, Cincinnati and everything. I'm really having a hard time figuring out how good the Bears are going to be. It's been a really rough, couple years now for the Baylor Bears. Kind of hard to tell how good this team is going to be, but I got them predicting to go 5-7. Definitely not a big improvement from last year. This team is coming off a very terrible season and also a very disappointing season, in my opinion. They also, were not really good a couple years ago. And remember, this is a team that won the Big 12 championship 3 years ago, and things have just not really gone their way ever since that Big 12 championship win. So I have this team coming up just short of a bowl game. They do have a non-conference game against Utah, so you're probably wondering that should be a Big 12 game, but no. It's counted as a non-conference game because that game was scheduled right before, Utah became a fully official member of the Big 12 and everything. So I do have them losing that game in the non-conference, and then, of course, their Big 12 schedule is very tough as well. So I got Baylor going, predicting to go 5-7, a little bit of a better year, but not really enough to make it to a bowl game, and then 3-6 here in the conference. And then you look at these 5 teams here from 7 through 11, West Virginia, TCU, and Colorado, Texas Tech, and Arizona. I think all these teams that you're seeing from 7 through 11 are like dark horse contenders in the Big 12. I got West Virginia, TCU, and Colorado all predicted to go 7-5, and then Arizona and Texas Tech both predicted to go 8-4. Again, I think all these teams that you're seeing from 7 through 11 are big dark horse contenders in the Big 12. We'll start with West Virginia first. I think this team's going to be pretty good, especially on the offensive side of the football. They do have a good amount of experience coming back on that side of the football. And then defensively, I do have some concerns about the defense for West Virginia, but they should overall still be pretty solid. They lost quite a bit of production from that side of the football from last year, but you look at their schedule in the non-conference, and you're probably wondering, why do they have 5 losses if they just have 3 losses in the Big 12? Well, because I do have them losing to Penn State and Pittsburgh in the non-conference, so that's how they ended up with like 5 losses, 2 of those losses coming in the non-conference, and then 3 of those losses coming in the Big 12. So 3 plus 2 will equal 5. So 7-5 prediction here for West Virginia. TCU at 7-5 as well. I do expect TCU to turn things around this year. Just like West Virginia, I also have them losing a couple of non-conference games against Stanford and SMU, both out of the ACC and everything. I think TCU is a slightly better team, than Stanford is, but SMU is going to be a really good team this year. So maybe this team can probably go 8-4 and probably 7-2, or maybe like still 6-3 in the Big 12. But again, that's how TCU's record ended up being at 7-5 and then 6-3 here in the Big 12, just because of those couple of non-conference games. And then Colorado at number 9. Colorado, of course, getting a lot of hype like they did from last year, and this might be the most talked about team that's coming off a disappointing year last year. Wouldn't really say a disappointment because I expected where Colorado to be at from last year, but again, I had this team going 7-5 and making it to a bowl game this year. I don't think they're going to be definitely up there for the top contender in the Big 12, and also definitely have a chance to make the Big 12 championship as well. Again, I'm just not really buying that. And again, I think Colorado is a really good team and all. Again, they do have a really good quarterback in Shadir Sanders, and Travis Hunter also is back. They do have a lot of playmakers on this roster, but again, the offense I think is going to be very explosive, but the defense is obviously a big concern. They were not really good on that side of the football last year, and the offensive line wasn't really great last year for Colorado. They also have a pretty tough non-conference game against Nebraska on the road. That'll be very tricky. I have them losing that game, and then they got Colorado State, a team that actually really was competitive against them last year. So I do have them beating Colorado State, but then losing, of course, to Nebraska, so maybe that's where that 5th loss comes from. But I got Colorado going 7-5, and again, I got Colorado, TCU, and West Virginia all predicted to go 7-5, and then Texas Tech and Arizona come in here at 8-4 and then 6-3 here in the conference. I think the Red Raiders are going to definitely turn things around this year. I do expect this team to be right around 6, 7, 8 wins, somewhere in that range. Just like TCU, this is one of the more consistent teams in the Big 12, and I do expect them to be a dark horse contender in this conference as well. And then same thing with Arizona. I don't think Arizona is going to drop off that much from where they were from last year. Again, they had a 10-win season in their final year in the Pac-12. They lost their head coach, of course, but this team has a decent amount of production coming back. You look at the offense, I think that's going to be really the area where they're going to be really good at, and then the defense might have some concerns. They lost quite a bit of talent on that side of the football last year, but I still think either way, Arizona will still become like a dark horse contender in the Big 12. And then at one point, I was actually really considering picking Arizona to win the Big 12 from last year, but I actually going to go with another team now, just because Arizona lost their head coach and everything, and that really kind of changed my mind. But again, I think all these teams that you're seeing from 7 through 11 are like dark horse contenders. Again, West Virginia, TCU, Colorado, and Texas Tech and Arizona. So let's now go to the top 6 here. I think 5 and 6, these 5 and 6 teams that you're seeing here, UCF and Iowa State, I think they are the top dark horse contenders in the Big 12 this year. You look at UCF, predicted to go 8-4, 6-3 in the conference, and then Iowa State here also predicted to go 8-4 and 6-3 in the conference. UCF, I think, is going to be a really well-coached team. I mean, obviously they do have a good amount of talent on that roster, and their schedule kind of sets up well for them to probably make the Big 12 championship. But again, they are definitely a dark horse contender in my opinion. They're coming off a little bit of an up and down season last year. I think they'll definitely be a little bit better this year as well. And I think this is one of the more consistent teams in the Big 12, just like maybe TCU and Texas Tech as well. So UCF here at 8-4, watch out for them. And again, I do have them losing a non-conference game to Florida on that schedule, and that's the reason why you're seeing their record at 8-4. And so you're probably wondering, where's that fourth loss come from instead of them going 9-3. Again, that fourth loss comes in the non-conference to Florida, so I got UCF here at number 6. And then Iowa State here at number 5. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Iowa State a lot this year. I've been talking about this team being a real dark horse contender. I think this might be the top dark horse contender in the Big 12. Again, a lot of experience coming back on both sides of the football. They are a very well-coached team. And I think this team is very underrated. I think they're definitely going to really be good this year. And again, they have the second most returning production coming back in the country. So watch out here for the Cyclones to be a top dark horse contender in the Big 12 for 2024. And then we actually have a 4-way tie here for the number 1 spot. We got Kansas, Utah, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State, the top contenders here, all predicted to go 9-3. So like I said in this conference, I don't really expect anybody to go to get to 10 wins this year. Again, this conference is definitely wide open, and a lot of these teams are going to beat up on each other, and every single game is going to be very competitive. We'll start with Kansas though first. I got this team going 9-3, then 6-3 here in the conference. I do have them getting a non-conference win against Illinois and everything, but I have them losing to Kansas State here, so that's the reason why they're both right behind Utah and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State and Oklahoma State and Kansas don't play each other in the regular season. So does Utah and Kansas. They don't play each other in the regular season as well. But Kansas State does play Oklahoma State, and you're probably wondering, why is Kansas State ahead of Oklahoma State? Well, it's because I do got the Wildcats beating the Cowboys in the regular season matchup, and then same thing goes for Utah. I got Oklahoma State beating Utah here, so I think that's pretty fair to put both Kansas State and Oklahoma State ahead of both Utah and Kansas. Again, I got Kansas State beating their rival, the Jayhawks, in that regular season matchup, so that's really what the tiebreaker came down to. And again, these top contenders are definitely going to really be battling for that number 1 spot. I think Kansas is definitely a top contender this year in the Big 12. Again, they have a schedule that really sets up nicely for them. And then Utah, a lot of experience coming back, especially at the quarterback position. They got a veteran quarterback in Cam Rising, returning after missing out of all of last year, so we'll see how much he has improved. And then Oklahoma State, they also have a good amount of production coming back as well. I mean, they got Ollie Gordon, of course, one of the top running backs, in my opinion, in the Big 12 coming up this year. And they also have Alan Bowman coming back as well. He's a 7th-year kind of guy, so he does have a lot of experience. And then you look at this Kansas State team. Again, they lost so much on the offensive side of the football and everything from last year, but the defense, I think, is going to be definitely their strength. But this is a really well-coached team. they're a very consistent team in the Big 12 as well, so that's the reason why they ended up being at number 1. And also, I got them beating Oklahoma State in the regular season matchup. So those are my standings here in the top 6. Let's now go to the Big 12 championship now here for 2024. So I got Oklahoma State versus Kansas State here for my Big 12 championship prediction. You look at both of these teams, I think Oklahoma State is definitely a more experienced roster than Kansas State is. But you look at the Wildcats, they are definitely a very well-coached team, and that's how they won the Big 12 championship a couple years ago. Again, this Kansas State team absolutely reloads every single year on both sides of the football. They may not have the most talented roster in the Big 12 and definitely in the country, but again, they're just a well-coached team, and they're also very consistent as well. So you look at this matchup here, it could be a rematch here from the regular season between both of these teams, but you look at Oklahoma State, I've been saying this ever since the beginning of the offseason. I've been really liking this Oklahoma State team ever since the beginning of the offseason. I think they're definitely the clear favorites to win the Big 12 this year, unless you put Utah in there and then also some other teams. Again, this conference is just so hard to predict. Again, it's one of the toughest, Power 4 conferences that I had to make a prediction on. But again, I got Oklahoma State. I think they probably win the Big 12 championship this year. Again, this matchup right here will be really close and everything, but I think Oklahoma State is better, than Kansas State, even though I got the Kansas State winning the regular season matchup. But I think Oklahoma State gets revenge, and I think, Ollie Gordon will show why he's one of the top running backs in the Big 12 in this championship game as well. So I got Oklahoma State. Again, ever since my preseason and everything, I've been picking Oklahoma State to win it all in the conference this year, and I'm still sticking with that pick. So I got Oklahoma State winning the Big 12 championship in 2024. So that is my Big 12 championship prediction and also my 2024 Big 12 football standings for the upcoming 2024 college football season. So let me guys know what you think about these Big 12 predictions down in the comments below, and also give me your Big 12 predictions down in the comments below, and give me your Big 12 champion down in the comments below as well. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports Channel.